this the district committee or is this your committee?
No. It is, I forgot her name, but there's like a head librarian.
Yes. She used to teach at Hamilton.
And of course I forgot her name.
Jennifer.
Dr.
something.
Macias, she
Jennifer
did the
something.
presentation.
Yeah, so what'll happen is, once we file, Jennifer goes over, right? This is under the current library policy. The new one doesn't take effect until January 3rd.
Maybe, because Tom Oliverson
It might
just
be pushed back.
just put a new bill into the legislation. So
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, but bills in the legislation won't take effect till September 1st.
so the issue right now is that with the district, the reason that they are concerned about implementing this new policy is because it was already anticipated that in January they would implement, or the Senate would pass new bills, which Tom Oliverson has already just now put in a bill for review to basically do books like movies. And the problem is, so I read the blurb today. So the request is for the publisher. So that job part is not a job for the teachers. However, if our teachers go through this, or our librarians and teachers go through this, and the bill passes, then we'll have to do it all again in September. Well, there will be a new rating system.
On new books coming in.
Oh, so the old books are grandfathered in?
I don't think that I don't think in the bill, if you read the bill.
I just read an article.
Yeah, well, you got to read the bill. But how can you? I don't know if you can mandate the publisher to replace the books.
Well, I agree. So I wonder how they will, and I think that's the biggest concern. How will they implement that in schools? Because Sci-Fair's the only one that's doing the I can't remember what's called, the local right now.
I think others are.
Sci-Fair developed the program.
You would fill out for recommendation. This is what you would fill out if you're trying to ban.
But then that does create more work for our school
This is
librarians.
what they review.
I don't know if, so I have a 7th grader, and then my daughter graduated from Subwoods. And actually my neighbor has a child at Bridgeland, and the librarians are in charge of the technical stuff too. My son put in 2 tickets to get his Chromebook replaced, and the librarians couldn't get it to it. And his Chromebook was literally falling apart. It was almost in 2 pieces. So finally I just emailed the teacher. I was like, can you help him? The teacher saw his Chromebook and was like, I don't even know how this still works. So, and then my neighbor has to keep messaging me to borrow my Chromebook charger, because through the school year he's tried to get a new charger and hasn't been able to. So I get that we think it's a small task. I'm just saying, like, from my experience, they're having difficulty completing tasks they're assigned to now, which maybe they could get a new technology person. The librarian shouldn't be doing that anyway. Hi, how are you?
I'm considering going back to teaching next year, and this is one of the things that concerns me about.
So we are included, but some of them are not speaking loud enough for us to hear. But we were just discussing the new bill that Tom Oliverson put in this morning, and so we were discussing how that would be implemented.
He had filed this morning. Previously filed.
Oh yeah, maybe she got the date wrong. That's not the.
I read the
big thing about
My
it.
mistake. I read the article this morning. Oh, and then, yeah, you have this. And then this is...
Oh yeah, let's just listen. We can listen. Let's listen.
And I didn't bring a lot of copies, so I can email the instructions. And I'll have a copy of this, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We have both. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
No local option, no local option. But then you go to details and boom, there's a whole other.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. So she was gonna get a tutorial. Well, I did show her, you showed them how to, because somebody else really has a laptop.
Yeah.
I gave them the directions.
Do you guys have a list of books somewhere that you're like starting with, like the bill that Krause started with, or?
No, we're starting with blankets, flamer, magenta, and the glass.
My purse is over
There's
there.
gonna be a few books in it.
I think
I've
it's
read the Glass Castle and Flamer.
Oh, it's right there.
The white one?
Yeah, I just need to get a pen out. Thank you.
Anybody got a post-it?
Oh, like you?
Yes.
Oh, Tom.
A post-it note?
Yeah, to put on the book.
Oh, I don't.
Okay, because I'm gonna put on here.
Oh, dang.
Can I keep this? Keep this one. What's it? Flamer, Beyond
Flamer.
Glass Castle.
Magenta.
Beyond Magenta.
Oh, you wanna read it? Oh, you're gonna have to.
Well, and I was reading over this paperwork, and it does say that you have to read the book in the entirety. And it says, if not, please do so before completing and submitting this form.
Yeah, we know. That's what we brought up.
Oh, she was saying that she wanted to read it. I was just letting it.
Just looking
That's
through
what
it.
we brought up.
I'm looking to see what it was. Yeah. Let's see if I can look up another one.
I put where you're already at.
Oh, well, this one didn't
Yeah,
have
that
it.
one is.
That's the blue book.
That's the legal page.
You were busy.
The Handmaid's Tale.
What's this?
Which has already
This is
been
the elementary school.
Banned in
Where was that?
Conroe.
Anti-racist baby.
That's what
What is
the
it?
anti-racist baby.
Oh, we have that one.
Which one?
The
The
anti-racist.
anti-racist.
Yes, I bought it for King.
That's interesting.
You asked for it. Hi, how are you?
Oh, hi, Mark.
There's some room right here. No. Exactly.
I know him as Pat Guy. I know him as Pat Guy at the board meeting. Be careful he doesn't touch you. Be careful he doesn't touch you. He looks so good. Yes, I'm sorry. This is my husband. Fritz, this is Jen.
Jen.
She's one of the ones I'm always chatting with. What did he say? What did he say?
I'm the one you'd rather text
Hello.
than talk to him.
Good.
I'm Chris. Nice to meet you. It's my husband
Christina.
Fred.
Jen.
Jen, Jennifer.
Christina.
Oh, Jen, okay. Yeah.
This is my daughter, Paige. She
Hi.
graduated from
How are you?
Cyworth.
All right, fantastic.
Silence.
2019.
Just in the nick of time to miss.
Right.
Everything.
Novus, what are you up to?
Well,
And the requirements on that of what we're gonna.
Can I take a look at it? Thank you.
I know there's a group that meets to try to get these books in, right?
We are part of the group that believes that children should be able to
Right.
read whatever books their parents are.
Right. There's a group that meets to do the job, just like
Oh, what is that group?
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Fair Civics.
Oh, I'm on the board of
Yeah.
Cypher Civic Alliance,
Yeah.
but we
one?
meet.
There's two of them.
Well, the one with 500
The original
people
one,
in
not
it
the
on
one that
Facebook.
was-
We actually meet not to push books, but we meet to read them and discuss whether we think they would be appropriate. Same thing, like just like this, just maybe with a wider lens.
Oh, okay.
Because I know some books may not be appropriate for my children, but I don't think I can speak for other parents that might think differently about their children. So I'm still for parents' rights, just I want to focus on, knowing that so many different kids belong in schools. I used to be a teacher, and I'm considering going back in Sci-Fair next year. And there's so many kids from so many different ways of life, no religion. I'm Catholic, Baptist, Buddhist, all different kinds. And so there should be books for all of them.
And
That makes sense, right?
read
We
one
live
of
in
the
America.
books.
No.
That doesn't make sense? Oh, okay. What doesn't make sense about that?
Well, I mean, I even got Mark Sims. All right, and we're talking about schools. We're talking about
Right.
public schools.
Right. Yeah.
So, should Hustler magazine be in a high school
Did you see
periodical?
Hustler in those schools?
There's
I
no-
really
What
do
school?
wonder.
There's no
What
question.
I know, I read that you
I
saw
asked the
that.
question.
I am not saying that when did I say
Just
that
am
everything
wondering. I
should
would
be
like
in
to, if it's in
schools?
my
Ask you.
child's school, I would like to make sure
Okay.
it's taken
Let's
out.
go to the question that I asked.
Okay. Go for it.
Oh yeah,
Do you
see,
think-
he's like, what?
Do you think Hustler magazine belongs in a high school periodical?
No.
Well, why not? Well, why not? Some homes have them in there. I'm
Okay.
sure children can get them from their
Homes or
homes.
schools?
Homes.
I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about schools. I'm so confused.
Okay. What was the question?
Is Hustler, I asked you, did you find a Hustler magazine in a
What
school?
was my question? What was my question?
We already said no.
Okay. Right. Do we agree that they don't belong?
Are you trying to
Right.
regulate what
And I'm
happens in my
wondering
home?
why.
I'm confused.
I'm saying
If I
trust
have
the
Hustler in my
experts. I
home-
believe in the expertise of librarians that go to get their masters and study this.
The expertise of CDC
Education.
on disease?
Are
Where
we
did you
gonna
graduate high
talk?
school?
75.
Okay,
were
can
any
we
books banned
stay-
at your school back in the 70s?
Oh, sure. They were trying to ban, let's see, they tried to ban Catcher in the Rye. They tried to ban many books.
Do you believe
This
Catcher
is
in the
not
Rye should be
a-
banned?
Does it belong maybe in a reading curriculum for a high school? Maybe not.
I loved
Maybe
reading
not.
it in my high school.
It's a great book.
AP Lit. Okay, what I've noticed is that you've already changed the subject. You just brought up the CDC. We're not talking about the CDC.
You're talking about relying on experts,
Yes. Oh, do you?
librarian experts.
Uh-huh. So,
Okay, so do we? Okay, well, experts have gotten things wrong. Many
sure,
times.
and that's why it's awesome that parents can fill out these forms
Right,
and
and
say, I
choose
have
for
an issue with
themselves.
this, and there's a process to follow.
Right.
Seems like we can all agree on that.
Everybody's voice
That's awesome.
matters, right? Everybody's opinion
I think you
has
have to have a
value.
school ID.
We don't agree with it, but it has
I think
value.
you have to have a school
Right.
ID and they
But
scan your
I-
ID to
but I
like
think we
check,
need
keep
to
track of who has the
establish some
books and
level
stuff.
That's
of
what
what
our,
we're going to try to.
Yeah,
recommend.
those are everybody.
but we start with a librarian who's got a master's degree level
I don't know.
training.
I don't buy.
You don't buy that they got a master's degree level training? Or you don't buy that we trust their opinion?
What that we trust. What,
Do you trust your urologist?
What?
Do you trust your urologist to make decisions for you?
My husband,
No, they don't make. No doctor makes decisions for
my
me.
husband's a welding engineer. He actually helps with building code. He's working with SpaceX right now. Would you
cool.
do you trust? Would you trust him?
I don't believe that a layman can have a great opinion about a whole lot of things.
So if I'm, considering going back to teaching,
Yeah.
I went to school, taught for 7 years. I would not have any expertise in my classroom more than you would. Could you come into my classroom? Do you feel like you should come into my classroom and tell me how to teach?
I'm not trying to tell you how to teach.
But you just said we shouldn't trust the expertise of
Not-
the librarians.
Not just because somebody walks in and says, "I've got credential A, credential B."
Well, yeah, and there's always a process
Okay.
and there's always accountability.
So you're saying like him going to school and being able to work on this project has no value because he has a associates in machining. He's an international expert. He writes articles. He would come in and say, "Look, I have all of these. I'm well respected in my field," and then you might doubt that, or is it only librarians?
And we're talking. Okay.
No,
So
I
he
asked you a
walks in-
question.
So he walks
Wait,
in.
sir, I asked
Okay.
you a question. It's your turn to reply.
Okay.
I replied to your question. Please reply to mine.
Your husband walks in with those credentials.
Mhm.
and discusses on some type of welding process
Right?
that's required. Okay. Now, I would bring him in.
We need to send out an email.
Yes, I would go through
Like,
there
just
and
thanking them for
value,
having a
obviously
process.
value, and more than likely
Forms, we
follow his
appreciate that.
Oh,
recommendations.
so
from a
you
technical
would,
standpoint.
because, now is that
But
because
he's
he's
a
a
technical
man?
expert.
Now is that because he's a
Just
man?
say
I just said he writes articles,
email
and
the
in his
head
articles he
librarian,
writes
to
technical stuff,
email your
but
personal
probably
school
maybe some
librarian that you have a
opinion
connection
too.
with, and just say thank you for having a process in the district.
So
We appreciate it.
do you believe him because he's a man? Because he's not a librarian? What part of that statement causes you to believe him and not a librarian?
Well, a couple of different things. One is he is an expert in a field, okay, of physical reality. And when he welds, it welds. If that weld holds, it holds.
So
Okay,
art, you
so-
just don't
so
believe that
he's-
people who have credentials in art are not.
Have you watched, have you gone
available.
into like an elementary, I'm not an expert in, I'm not an expert in librarians at all, but I've seen a elementary school librarian in action so many times. Have you been able to see what they do in person?
No, my mom was a librarian at our school, private school.
Oh, did she not have any expertise
She
either?
didn't go to school.
No, she didn't. She just did it by being
Okay,
a volunteer
some
and working
some
by,
librarians are able to
by
do that.
right.
In this district, that's not the way it is. They all have a master's degree in library science.
And again, I mean, having that level of expertise, okay, again, like you were saying, when you start getting into these levels of theoretical ideas, theoretical.
What
We're not-
theoretical?
Yeah, what is
Teaching-
theoretical about being a
teaching is
librarian?
not teaching. Welding is welding.
My husband
And
teaches
holes.
too. My husband
Teaching is
teaches, he
teaching
proctors
too.
tests. Well, I'm just trying to understand your reasoning.
I taught kids how to read. That's not theoretical. That's, you
Factual.
can see it.
Yes, but the theory of that you use to teach your children to read, all right, may or may not work as you say. Number one, with
Okay, yeah, and you have
every child.
accountability. You have.
Some children learn differently. My children.
Oh, sure.
my
That's where you
children,
have
we
small
went
groups
through
and you do different things for different kids, and there's different assessments along the way to check that how you are teaching is working for every kid. I mean, there's a lot of teachers don't just go in and do whatever they want and not hear from you have walkthroughs, you have different modes of being held accountable and making sure that the kids are learning.
When was the last time you were in a school library volunteering? Legitimate, honest question.
Yeah, never.
I spent a lot of time in my kids' elementary school. I was there volunteering all the time in multiple capacities as an accelerated reader, helper, and in the library. And I have the utmost respect for school librarians and how hard they work and what they do and how much time it takes to assemble and curate a library. So the time spent
And recommend
doing this,
books. Like when a great librarian has a student that does not like reading and inspires a love of reading by recommending certain books, it's a beautiful thing to have lifelong learners, lifelong readers, and they're so good at what they do.
And my point is, if we're going to do this kind of thing, people should also go volunteer in the schools to see it
To see what it really looks like.
Go and help. Go help the librarian. See what's going on here.
That's fair.
They work really, really hard.
And it
really, really
keeps-
hard.
I'm not
And our teachers work really, really hard.
I'm not questioning the level of each individual's efforts and dedications, all right? I'm looking at the fruits of the harvest, all right? And so, no, I don't go through there and I do have very broad concern.
That's the
about
thing
the level of material that comes in front of these children.
Have you read any of the books in their entirety?
I don't need to read the whole book in its entirety.
Well, you
right?
do to fill out this
It
form.
does, yeah, it says right here.
Well, that's fine.
You can't just take the highlighted points that other people have told you. You need to do your own
understand.
research.
Because what if I judged you off of one thing that I knew about you, and then
But some of the material
gave no
in these books,
context.
right? It's just it just opens up like even talking with Marnie or some book. It's just starts talking about how the kid starts contemplating suicide. all right? It doesn't do it, all right?
Okay, but are
now
you-
you're planting thoughts, planting things in the children's heads at 8, 9, and 10 years old.
Yeah. Have you
That-
seen the
that
recent video
don't
by
need
the
to
mom
be.
whose son died by an fentanyl overdose? He began using marijuana in 7th grade. In 7th grade. That's a parent of a child who went to Bridgeland who died. So by the idea that we are planting these things into children's brains, that the slippery slope idea, that has been, the slippery slope idea was
the
null and
problem
void
is
a
that we're
long
on the
time
downside
ago.
of the slope. And we're trying to
That
figure out
was
how
null and
to
void a
keep
long
it.
time ago. I have a question. I forgot. I have one more question for you. Did you find Hustler magazine in school, and which school was it?
You missed the point of the question.
No, I
so
asked you
I'm
a
not
question.
going to answer. No, your question
Oh, so
is
now
irrelevant.
no, you're
Your
not
question
going
is
to
irrelevant
answer.
to my question.
I answered your question. I said no.
Okay, great.
Did you
So we
find
do
Hustler?
agree. We
Did
do
you
agree
find
there's a level
Hustler
of-
magazine in a school
That's
library?
irrelevant. The question is a
Oh, so you-
theoretical question
No.
on what level do we can
No,
we
you
all
just
agree
you
here.
want to
we
be
all
able to
agree.
you
we
want
all
to be
agree.
able to make a blanket statement without accountability,
No,
and I am
no,
totally
ma'am.
fine with that. Yes, sir.
No, ma'am.
Yes,
No,
sir.
ma'am.
Yes, sir.
No, my
Yes.
question wasn't.
Listen up.
Yeah, here I got this.
If this is not solved concern, parent, staff, or citizen may seek to file a request for a formal challenge or reclassification to use. That form is a second attachment. The parent, staff, citizen may complete the form and a campus reconsideration committee is convened. The committee includes librarian, teacher, a CPAC parent, or other appointed parent, and usually an administrator. The committee meets to vote on a determination within the rewrite or a new library resources are attached to each annual report. The committee then provides a determination about the challenge and consideration. Okay, so we reach out, we look at the consideration, if you think that it doesn't match what's on here, it doesn't match the policy, then you turn it in. Then one is to
Did you see that blankets? The wall blankets. That's the book. Just blankets. It's a huge book.
Bethany, where did you get these? Is this just a website? This isn't curriculum.
It's created by lookbooks.org.
I know, but I just wondered if this was curriculum, like used to for. Is this used for teaching in the class?
It's just a summary of the book.
It's a what?
It's a review. Like a movie review. Because it shows lookbooks.org. It just shows every single page. Like instead
I just
of reading
wondered.
the
I
book.
just didn't know if this was used for curriculum.
That's terrible.
Oh, Flamer. We have that book about it.
I read it on my Kindle. I missed out on some of the none of the pictures don't pixelate right or something.
I'm concerned that when these books aren't in the library, that my son won't have access to them. I've told you before, my son reads at adult level. He reads whatever he wants.
Yeah.
He does not read Hustler. We don't have that in our home. We might have some Playboys though. I want to make sure that if he wanted to read it.
material to which an objection has been received, the campus librarian or administrator will explain the selection process or collection level determination along with the criteria for the selection of material or designation of collection level.
Can you hear?
The campus
Hey, Bethany.
librarian-
Bethany,
What?
can you speak up a little louder?
Sorry, y'all.
That's all right.
I feel like I'm screaming something. I'm trying to.
It's a big table. It's
I'm
a
trying
long
to read
table.
like the current policy that we're under, and it's talking about the reconsideration committee, consideration. All committee members shall review the challenge material in its entirety. Access to the challenge material shall not be restricted and will be considered as a process. That's my thought.
I've read the current policy, so I know.
Yeah, go, if you go to cfist.net and look under library policy, it'll pull up the current library policy.
That was Bethany.
This one's yours, Matt.
Thank you. So, it sounds like
Need a
the
chair for Tom.
first thing.
There's a chair right here.
I used to teach, and I am considering going back next year. And this is like one of the things that's holding me back is the extra load on teachers right now. And I've had, I have a ton of books that I have on my own, and I fear the extra work that would need to go into, the new processes and everything. And so I'm just wondering, do you guys go to the teacher first and say, have you gone to teachers first and talked to them?
That's my husband Fred. That's my daughter Paige.
It wasn't a library.
Christina. I didn't know if I should.
Right. Well, some teachers are putting. Oh yeah, but do you fear? I understand that you're very passionate in what you're doing. At the same time, do you fear the extra work you're putting on librarians and schools when they're already You're looking at me like I'm crazy, and
I'm a teacher,
Okay.
You used to be a teacher, right?
certified teacher, right?
Okay. Same
So,
here.
I mean, it's just appalling to me that we would have this, that we would have to do all this. But we're in a time of age that we do.
I understand that, and that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking
Do a
at the
lot
same
of things to
time.
keep kids safe, and so that's what's most
Right.
important, is keeping the kids safe. So if it's a lot of extra work on me, yes, we'll do it.
Well, I'm not asking whether you would do it. I'm asking, are you? Can you not look at me like I am?
You said I'm not asking that, but you are asking.
No, I'm asking if you're concerned. At the same time, you can be pushing 100% forward, and at the same time think, and we know this is a lot of work on them.
I have a comment. We did a classification when my son was in high school, 2010, and they were centralizing everything so that they could loan back and forth. They know what every library had, and the volunteers did that.
Right.
The
At my
volunteers
school, we
did
weren't
that
allowed to have
classification.
volunteers.
Okay, I've offered twice at
Yeah,
board
we've
meetings.
offered it,
I've
and it's not like
emailed
that.
Teresa Hall, I've emailed Don Tryon.
Me too.
We have a whole group that is willing to just come in there and help the
Right.
Teresa Hall.
Haven't been taken up on anything.
Teresa Hall even offered to invite volunteers to come in to help with this.
Well, I
effort.
think it-
Wait a minute, at a board meeting, all right? As one of the solutions, is Teresa Hall
Well, I think
offered
if
to let these people
the
come
teachers
in,
are going to be held
but they're being
responsible, or
resistant.
the librarians, part of them probably feel like they can't take volunteers, because then what if something gets messed up? It's going to go back on the. So I understand not having volunteers for some schools, because it will. If it goes back on, it's not going to go back to the volunteer. It's going to go back on the librarian, and if they're already fearing
Sure.
for their jobs.
Thank you. You look fabulous.
I'm not saying feel differently.
Thank you so much. You wanna?
Well, my
Hey,
who's y'all?
thank you so much.
Well, I'm not a teacher right now.
Would you like one, Todd?
Sure. I'll take
Right?
it. Yeah. They
I know
look pretty
Paige.
good. What is this?
She said chocolate muffin.
Well, number one, the teachers wouldn't be putting these books in the libraries. That's acting like teachers have all this extra time on their hands, and they just don't.
Y'all should culture and linger a little, do whatever you gotta do, but y'all should not, we're putting this on you.
Yeah, I think that's not recognizing the type of stress that's in education, where teachers are having to cover 3 classes. There aren't enough substitutes, and then you want them to do that on top.
I want this,
And what grade level is that in?
I've already got coffee. Thank you so much.
She said it says young adult. But I
12
think
and up.
Well, my son
fundamentally-
and my son's 13, and he reads at adult level. He's read Clive Cussler. He reads Fahrenheit 451. He reads adult books, and so right now in the school library, because he goes to middle school, the highest book that he can read is YA. He doesn't read that. My son reads books on he wants to be a nuclear engineer. He reads books on nuclear stuff all the time, bombs, all kinds of stuff. So I don't know how old your kids are. This is my oldest. She's 21. She's also an avid reader. And then my youngest is 13, and he's in 7th grade. He just turned 13. So I know that for my child, first of all, I already knew about the opt-in policy because I've always had to opt in for my kids to read above their level. First of all, that's not something my son would like to read. However, he's already reading at advanced level, so I choose not to stifle that. I monitor what he reads. In fact, I tried to read the same books he was reading, but he reads so much faster than I do, I just gave up. And I know, like, we read Blake Crouch. I don't know if you know who that author is. He writes dystopian and sci-fi. He wrote Wayward Pines. We read one of his stories, and my son was younger, and I was reading it, and there was some heavy petting, and I was like, he didn't even, no, he was more interested in the sci-fi idea of the way that these people did these things. My son reads Andy Weir. Again, there is an Andy Weir. I don't know if they probably have the YA part for Andy Weir, but Andy Weir's books are amazing, full of amazing science. What a wonderful author to have those things, right? Especially for someone like my child. There's one Andy Weir book that is available in YA, and my son even said, "Why can't we read Andy Weir, Mom?" I'm like, honey, you can read more than, you can read at a higher level. They did the dystopian unit. He had just read Fahrenheit 451. He's like, why can't I do that? And his teacher told him specifically, it has to be Y or YA.
But what about on a Lone Star library and checking them out?
I just buy them.
I think we probably. I'm only going to.
No, he wasn't able to do the book for this school. It's
like
a
a school
dystopian
project.
novel, but he couldn't choose that book because it wasn't Y or YA.
I can only speak for me, but I would say that I have 2nd grader and a kindergartner. I'm not right now fearing what is in their library. I volunteer often in the library and help, shelve books. I do have a problem with if other parents decided what was right for my kid, and at the same time, I don't feel like I have the power to tell you what is okay for your kid. And so some of these
100%.
books, like Flamer, that I've read, could support some kids in high school with emotional issues or friendship, different things. And who am I to say, I know better for that particular kid than that parent does, or than that counselor does, than that.
Why can't their parents just buy it?
I mean, they can, but then, part of the library is, part of it being a public school library is having access to books. And that's where we have a process to say, I don't want my kid to have access to this.
Right.
But what about the parents? What about the parents that their parents aren't looking at this? They can go and access this stuff online. They can go check out a book. You don't need your mom to go say okay on the Chromebooks.
I mean, what about parents that aren't involved in lots of things? Do we
Is
take
it our
away
job to
sports?
parent?
We take away sports because some kids can't be involved in sports? Like,
What about till the cows come home?
I'm not
You
wedding a-
cannot solve everybody's individual problems. You've got to appeal to the majority.
you're right. You got to appeal to lots of different things, and we have so many different types of people going to public schools. All religions, no religions. I'm Catholic. I don't know. Can I teach all of your children the Hail Mary at school? Would you guys be okay with that? Great, we'll do it. But they're all different people coming from all ways of life, and that's what is wonderful about public school is the diversity in thought, the diversity in color, the diversity of
pervasively vulgar stuff that breaks the Texas penal code, the obscenity laws.
well, and I'm sure if you follow the process and it is indeed, under these things, then
Because
it'll
we
be
are,
removed.
yes, we know that Flamer's already been reviewed. And the district chose, not a single person, the district chose that it was okay. We know that. That's a fact.
And if it's just picking out a line,
Right.
you can pick out a line, and if you read it, because I heard, I think somebody spoke at the board meeting and read out the line from Flamer, and I was like, I don't know if I would want that. And
Who
then
here has read that whole book?
as a group,
Has anybody read that?
we have been
The entire book?
reading several of these books to have a conversation about it, and reading it in context is very different than pulling out one line from a book. And so I can understand why it was kept in the libraries at
glad you
a high school.
I just want to ask.
Any movement to getting the legislature to remove the education exemption in the obscenity statute?
So that's what I was talking about earlier. Yes, that's what I was talking about earlier.
If you can't control at the local level, control at the state level.
And that's why right now, like some of these
That's the
things that
conservative
were,
way, I
well, that's
hear.
one of the reasons. And as Bethany, her husband is on the school board. That's one of the reasons that they agreed unanimously to push back the date is because we are expecting legislation to come down. That will, yes, they are, and and that's part of the problem too with the district that they've already done all this work. And if the legislation comes down, they will have done it for naught. Well, because they'll have to do more. Well, but if they have to go back and revisit it, then that's a lot of work that you did to have to remove books.
I think one of the reasons they pushed it back was the implementation of software. They needed extra time to implement it. I think.
And the work, it was a big work.
There was
Yeah.
20,000 extra hours. Is that 22
Yeah,
something
so
extra
they're-
hours?
They pushed out the date to give more time, and also I think it had to do with implementation of software, getting the new software.
Right, and they
Which,
did.
by the way, regardless of the policy, I think they had to update software anyway, just because.
Yes, they did. They
Just
talked.
because
Yeah.
in general.
They talked about that at the board meeting, and the one thing
Yeah.
that they are hoping, that Sci-Fair is hoping, that they spoke about at the board meeting, this is what they talked about, is that they are hoping, Sci-Fair is hoping that possibly the state will adopt that software program they made because they had to develop that in-house. But that would be different than the new suggestion that Tom Oliverson that I read about this morning. That would be new, but at the board meeting they were discussing how they worked so hard on the software program that they hope that possibly the state will enact that because it's already there. They've already developed it.
I have to leave and go to work, but
That's
just
good. You can hope in one hand and.
I already
and in the
know.
other
Yes,
hand.
ma'am. I know.
We
Yeah.
need to deal with what we have now and what's coming at us next year. And we could,
What's
like I
coming
said,
at you next year?
the change in the.
The new policy.
The new policy. So we can sit here and discuss what may happen or what may not happen, but we have to deal with what we have now.
I just have one question and then I have to leave. Who has read Flamer in its entirety besides Bethany?
That's why.
Nobody else has read the entire
Christina
book.
read it.
I've read the entire book.
I didn't read it.
Bethany, what other themes are in there besides the vulgar, the things that you find vulgar?
Masturbation.
That's
I'm
not
saying
a
that
theme.
the
That's
thought-
not a
the-
theme.
What
It's not a theme,
themes?
but I mean, I'm looking at pictures.
Right.
The other thing is that is why I brought the books on the
Right.
hard copy so that they could read them.
What
Obviously,
other-
it has other-
what other
other
issues,
themes.
honestly, what other issues are in that book besides that part?
Adolescence.
What's the ethnicity of the
friendship.
boy? What's the ethnicity of the boy in the book?
Well, I thought he might be Hispanic, right?
He's part Asian.
Yeah.
There's domestic violence in his family at home.
I saw that.
So I think if we
I
can read the
saw it.
entire book in its entirety, you would know he was Asian if you read the entire book.
And I think
The
that
leaving on
author,
that note.
I thought the author was Hispanic.
The character is part Asian
Oh,
and gets bullied.
Yeah, and
I think that's fully for lots of things.
well,
I'm
I
just talking
think
about
that
the other themes of the
ethnicity
book,
is an issue. I know I
besides
don't
just
look
what's
it,
vulgar.
but I am Hispanic.
Vulgar quotes.
And I read one of the books on Bethany's list was Me Llamo Abre, which is Call Me,
It's not like a
well,
random
Call Me
thing.
Tree, Me Llamo Abre.
No, ma'am.
So there's a theme in that book that maybe, I don't know, depending on your age. However, there's a theme in the book where the person has short hair.
I have to go.
Well, as a Hispanic woman, this is an old wives' tale. My mom and aunt cut my hair very short, and I look like a boy. And even at school, they asked me, "Are you a boy?" That is a Hispanic theme. That is something that is a wives' tale. But I don't know if you know, like, if you have heartburn when you're pregnant, means your baby's going to have a lot of hair. These are things that are ethnically applicable, right? And so this book, this Yamame, I'm Hispanic, so I've heard these things. Yamame Arbol is about it. The person's gender is ambiguous. And to me, being a young woman, Hispanic woman who had her hair cut off, that resonates because that's how it is. And yes, the main character is Hispanic. It's actually a Hispanic trilogy. So I think this is just the one thing I want to warn y'all against. Is the ethnic ramifications of some of these things, because as I was highly offended, because like I said, that happened to me as a child. But you're not Hispanic. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you've never heard of this sort of thing that we do, right? My daughter can tell you some things that her baby goes through with his family of origin, who other family is Hispanic. We have to watch out about targeting different ethnicities when we think we're watching out for everybody. Because I felt bad and I felt targeted.
And I will double jump on that because I have a Jewish daughter-in-law, so I have a granddaughter who's half Jewish, half very strong minded. I have a granddaughter who's half Hispanic. I have a step-grandson who's half Italian, half Hispanic. I have a grandson who is a quarter Native American. So yes, there are all of those little things that have to be
right, nuances, right.
into consideration. So there's some things that I don't know. You just talked about that. Those are like different things. There's things within the Jewish community that's a little bit different. There's things in the Native American community. So yes, we do have to be careful on some of this. Although I can say some of these books or some of the stuff in here, and I'm going to bring this up because it has nothing to do with libraries, but I will share this with you. You can share this with you. And I don't know what other schools this is happening at, but I know this is happening is at Salyards, which is all the granddaughter going there.
What grade? My son's in 7th grade at Salyards.
She's in 6th.
Oh, goodness.
There are issues on the bus where girls are going down on boys and they're videoing it.
Oh my gosh.
And that would happen last year. It was shared last year.
What in the world?
And,
Yes.
But this year it's also
But they didn't read it in a book.
in the hallways. It's happening in the hallways.
Right.
That are not monitored.
And in high school. It happens in high school too.
Staff are cameras. So
Yeah.
That's not
In the bathrooms and the stairways.
I mean, right. If you guys, like, if we can expand just like what you said, if we can expand or broaden our mind and realize that if a child reads about being gay in a book, that book didn't make them gay. But there are things that are happening. My daughter was assaulted at Ranch. The AP decided she wasn't assaulted. They didn't save that recording. Yes, this happened, sir. And we hired an advocate who wanted us to sue the district for sexual harassment, right? I know that rings true with you. Because we have boys in 6th and 7th grade asking girls for naked pictures. That's a much greater issue, in my opinion, than... But we can't...
I don't think anybody at this table is about racism or
I did never
based on
said
race.
that.
No,
I
but
never
it's not
said
based
that.
on race.
I absolutely never said that.
Sixth grade
but you know
daughter.
what you're talking
I don't want her
about.
reading a book about busting a load in a bottle.
How old is your daughter?
She's 12, 11.
That book's not available to her age
I'm
group.
just saying, I don't know whether it is or isn't in my class, but disclaimer probably. But I'm just saying, like, that is not
Right,
appropriate.
right.
I don't care.
Well, and you know what? I have this book, and I've told my husband, go ahead and take it to school.
No, 100%.
So I agree.
I work in a corporate world. If I were to show any one of these pages to my coworker that was an adult,
And I don't know and I don't know what school grade, I don't know what level that's in. But I just said, that, just one sec. We had an advocate, I agree with you. Right. I don't know if you heard what I said, but we had an advocate. She graduated in 2019. We had an advocate that started in 2017. He wanted us, 2017. She was She was a sophomore. He wanted us to sue the school district for sexual harassment. And we didn't because that wasn't what was best for our daughter. She had begun being sexual harassed 6th or 7th grade. And it didn't start with a book. It started with the phone. It starts with the internet. It starts with access to the internet. It starts with kids being able, they can look up pornography. I don't know if you guys know this about the iPhone. It's supposed to be this awesome, you can lock it down. My son has Bing. iPhones come preloaded with Bing. Guess what? Bing circumvents all of that iPhone lockdown. Bing. You know, the old-timey B-I-N-G, the old-timey.
Oh, Bing, B-I-N-G. The search engine? The search engine?
Yeah. I'm just letting you know.
All the world's problems
Right.
here at this table.
I'm
and
just-
we've got to be able to focus.
I'm just
And
letting
we
you
have-
know it doesn't
we
start with
have
books.
selected-
It doesn't start with
We
books.
have selected the books,
Yeah.
the pornography in the books as the focus.
Yeah.
that's why I brought the hard copies.
Right.
You do need to read them.
Yeah, and you should, yeah. Especially if you're concerned. But I would find out if that book is available to your student. It might not even be in your school library.
Well, she's like middle, so that's what's scary.
I hear you.
They're kind of babies right
They
now.
are.
And it's a horrible.
I don't know if you saw the mom, her son died of a fentanyl overdose. She just made a video. He started doing marijuana in 7th grade. My son's in 7th grade. That scares the crap out of me.
That's when it starts.
Scares the crap out of me.
When it's always started. It's
Yeah.
on 7th grade.
I just don't think. I think it starts at home with parents. Like I said, I let my
What
son
about
read
the-
whatever
what about
he.
the people that don't have parents?
Well,
What
is it
about
our
kids
job
that
to
have
parent?
The what if.
But is it our job to parent other people's children? Because
No.
they do have parents. They
No.
do have parents. They just
It's-
aren't
it's our-
maybe as
it's our-
involved as
it's-
we
It's our
are.
job not to parent them, but to offer them life advice.
But that's
I hate
character
that term.
education. So decide. Do you want character education?
So let me just say this. I had a meeting at Bridgeland High School,
Yeah, we
and
need to focus.
I was actually offended when they basically said, "We're parenting your kid," and I'm like, "You can coach him up, you can offer him advice, but he has 2 parents that are at home."
Yeah.
So I don't like it when someone says they're parenting my kid. There's mom and dad's at home, and you guys aren't paying my bills. And, you know what I'm saying? As far as like,
I think that's how some of this comes across, though. Is
Yeah.
It does.
Is I am going to decide for your kid what book is appropriate or inappropriate. And Flamer's another thing. I've read The Glass
oh,
Castle.
we're talking about
Yeah,
the,
somebody decided
the
this is
pornography.
appropriate for my kid.
That's a
I mean,
Yeah, and you
But
can
you
decide
you
to
can
opt out.
decide to opt out.
yeah.
So, and again, I know Texas legislation is about to come through. I don't know what date that's going to actually happen.
I don't
but,
either. He said it won't get enacted until September.
Of next
Well,
year.
it would be,
That's what he
that's
said.
when it would take effect. It's got
That's
to
what
get
it
to the
takes effect.
legislature to begin with.
Yeah.
And if they vote a certain way, they can't do it immediately. It won't get past that. It won't get past.
And they wouldn't make.
big
They would
enough of a
probably make it
majority.
the next school year, to start implementing things. But like, I know the Glass Castle is on this list, and I read the Glass Castle. And
I
could
haven't
see
read the Glass
that
Castle, so I don't have an opinion.
It's a lot of abuse in it. But I could see a high school student that has dealt with abuse.
It's like-
that book helping them.
My kids ask me
like,
all the time.
through it.
They're like, what does this mean? And I go,
Let me ask
how do
you,
you know all
can I
this?
ask
Like,
you
all
this?
around, what does it
And
mean?
again, and I love the fact that that you guys are here because I like bouncing ideas off people.
I think people should do this more often, honestly.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I got a ton of friends that don't agree with a lot of the political, the political stuff that I basically kind of follow. But I don't stay in my echo chamber either.
I think that's really important.
I bounce around because I want to know, okay, so this is my perspective, but what's your perspective? Like, what's going on? What does the law state?
Right.
And in the state of Texas, this is considered pornography. Obscenity laws violate obscenity laws. That's hard stop.
Right. I don't think it does.
And so let me just say this because she brought up a good point. If I own a company, actually I own several. If one employee was to show another employee that, some of the stuff that basically we're reading right here, do you think that my rear end would be on a little bit of a sling?
No.
No?
Those books are rated for YA and young adult.
Again, the
We're
rating
looking at
system, in my opinion, when you have obscenity, so you have pornography. When I was very respectful. And, so listen, here's the thing. When I went to a gas station when I was like 17 years old or 16 years old, up on the side they had these books, like Playboy, and you could see the Playboy written on top. And it basically there was this black thing that was covered. Why do you think they did that? To protect kids. Right?
But we're talking about a public forum. That's a gas station, right? Where everybody visits.
Well, public school is basically
versus a library in a public school.
In a public school.
But so we're looking at kids, so 1st through 5th, right? The books are rated and all.
I think she said they're
like I said,
muffins.
I always let my son read above because he could.
No
Then
doubt.
we have 6 through 8.
And I agree with you.
And those books
I will
are monitored again. The parents can opt out.
Yep.
And then we have 9 through 12. Again, where there's certain books that kids can opt out. We don't have kindergartners going into the high school and looking at those books, which is basically what a gas station would be, right?
Yeah.
So here's the whole school district.
Well,
we don't let kindergartners check out books that are 12th grade.
But you're missing my point.
No, I don't think I am.
Obscenity, basically, all right, or pornography should not be accessed by anyone under the age of 18
I
years
don't
old.
believe that this is pornography.
I think that's the big difference.
Oh, well, see, here's the thing.
Did you read Flame Rose?
I have not yet. That's the reason why I'm here.
Just asking. I was just
Yeah.
asking.
So,
I haven't read it either. I have it at my house.
yeah, and I appreciate that. And I'm not trying to be rude. I just
was letting you know.
That's the
I
reason
don't.
why I
don't
came
know.
here because I'm trying to learn, and again, I want to hear fresh perspectives. But I'll just say this: the rating system, I agree with. As far as you've got kids that basically read above level, that's fine. But who's protecting the kids that basically, let's say there's parents or even teachers that don't feel comfortable, being a part of this. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
So
does
you
anybody
know-
think about that?
I don't know. How old are your kids right now?
I got a 7th grader. He's 12.
I have a 7th grader, 13.
So,
do you know? So you have kids.
and
So,
I've got a sophomore in high school.
so in the schools, not only, so like when my kids were in 1st grade, they could read above. I had to get permission. So not only.
No, again.
No, but that you asked who was watching these. Who's watching this? I'm letting you know that they are only allowed to read as they increase in age level. They're only allowed to read. So I don't know the levels, but let's say in 6th grade, even in 6th grade, okay, you have your reading levels. You don't have full access to the entire library. I don't know at what point the kids have full access to the entire library, but wouldn't you agree that by 10th grade, your son knows about masturbation? He knows about gay people. If he doesn't, does he have a phone?
My son.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, here's the
Okay,
deal.
well then he knows about homosexuals. He knows about masturbation. He knows about all of it. He's 15.
My 15-year-old, not my 12-year-old.
No, your 12-year-old.
Okay.
You're 15.
My 12-year-old, we're a little bit more. We learn from our 15-year-old.
So did we.
There's no.
So did we.
I'll just say this.
Except I'll tell you.
There's no instruction manual passed out when you take these kids home. And especially
There should be.
when they went to teenager, mom and dad got to really wake me up.
Well, I'll tell you, she didn't teach me about vape. My
Yeah.
son did. my 13-year-old.
Yeah,
That's how I know. So I try to tell all parents.
What sex was in drama class.
Yeah, like.
Because I came home. I always, like, my mom tried to tell me and I just acted like I knew. And I'm sure I laughed with all the jokes and I'm sure other people around me knew. But 10th grade, I get home and I'm like, Mom, you will never believe what I learned today. There's a male plug and a female plug. Isn't that so weird? And she goes, Christina, please tell me you know. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's disgusting. But that's how I knew. Because of the name of
Well, when she was in school, kindergarten teacher pregnant, first grade teacher pregnant, second grade teacher pregnant. I mean, come on. If we want to talk about what we're teaching our kids, Mom, where do babies come from? So we found a book,
Yep.
a good, awesome resource that
Yep.
talked about, was very direct, right? And as each year we got more.
And I've actually had that conversation, believe it or not, with my son this year. And the reason why I say that, just like, your child, basically, you know your child better than anybody else.
Right,
And
absolutely,
I do as well.
100%.
But let me just say this. I feel very, very uncomfortable letting any adult, male or female, talk to my boys about sex or any type of sexuality. That's just me.
No, because we
You may
always
not-
opted
you may-
into the talk at school.
Yeah. And
Yes,
again,
ma'am. I don't.
and again,
I can come to you in school. Right.
Yes, I thought it was. Sorry. And then there's
100%.
Yeah.
Where I think that
Yeah, I had to
maybe
do.
something could be done.
Yeah, my first semester I had to do a project about like the field that I'm in, and it's growing by like 64% every year or something like that.
They're including this. They're including these types of
psychology.
My 7th grade, right?
or possibly
And again, I don't
other
want,
week.
we
I'm
opted
not
out,
sure yet.
obviously.
I'll see how far.
We didn't want to, that's just
hard
me.
to see,
Again,
Yeah, of course.
I just have an issue with
But those 12-hour shifts in the hospital.
someone else having
I don't
those
know about that.
conversations.
It's a
great profession.
Right? To me, I think it's very, very,
Right. Yeah.
just be real.
Never.
Are they 12 on?
If I was to walk
I'm
down
sorry?
the street,
So
in a public
12
area,
hour
I'm gonna
shifts,
talk
4
about
days a
public
week?
schools.
Is that?
It depends on where you work, but it's always pretty much always when you're working in a hospital, it's going to be a 12-hour shift. If you were to do something like a
Well, what
doctor's
about
office,
this? So,
you
like I
work
said, I
like
have
the doctor's
laid
office
off.
hours, but in a
Yeah.
hospital, it's
And
pretty
I
much
told my son, if you want to
always
take this and read it,
usually 4
because
days
he
a
has a
week,
hard time
12-hour
finding reading
shifts,
material.
always.
Very quickly.
So
Yeah.
it
I was
just
like, go
depends
for
on
it.
what.
So he's 13. and
That's why I was
great.
thinking more of like
And again,
dermatology,
Now what?
that's like a
But now
doctor's
what?
office,
And
and I have
I bought
a
it
young
for my
child,
child.
and I would rather do more like a 9 to 5 than like a 12-hour shift. But I'll just say, where it takes me, I'm still at the very beginning, I'm still in my first year, so I still have time to
Would you be
decide.
comfortable with my son bringing a Playboy magazine to the school?
Rather
I'm
than
quite sure my son has looked at Playboy or Playboy magazine.
Right, like a regular 9 to 5, something like that, whenever your doctor's office is open, basically.
Because kids, I don't know. I mean,
Well, I search I go through my
I do
oldest
too.
book, my
Like I
oldest
said,
book, my
I
oldest
know,
book.
and I do too.
My
I had that
my
for a
youngest is
while.
so innocent. Let me just be real. It's like, your kid, I know my kid. Now,
what I found was if you did 9.5, some people offered,
My honey got a Boy Scout camp out. You should hear the way the Boy Scout
4
camp
9s and
12-year-old boys.
I know.
12-year-old
They
boys.
spend as much time.
And he had to take special.
Yeah.
He had to take special
And
training.
depending on where you work, like driving, might not be worth it, gas, stuff like that. I used to do like home health care, and at first we were doing like 9 to 3. It was all the way in River Oak, and so eventually they changed it 7 to 7, so just 12-hour shift, 4 days a week. And even though it was very time consuming, I definitely just like that better because I would work my 4 days and then I'm off all those 3 days, so I like that better. But now that I have my son,
They were on 3 8-hour shifts, but they changed to
yeah, because it just makes more sense. For the amount of time that you're spending there and the amount of work that you're doing and stuff like that. I definitely do like, those 4 days. Even though it's tiring and it's work, it's easier to just get it done, get it over with, and then you have,
And books don't make you
whatever time
They
afterwards.
absolutely don't.
I didn't.
No, I'm just,
early
you
voting on
did
the
it. I'm
election.
just letting you know.
Acted like they did.
2 weeks before Because if it's true,
Yeah.
my son is just crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Most of it.
That's a lot of time.
And he's been interested in, he read all of the Andy Weir's books, like I said, he's really into science, and I've written his teachers that email saying, but Ty's just really into nuclear power, he's just really into that, he's not gonna build a bomb.
Something to think about.
Yeah, so Lone Star has 3 4-year programs. They have nursing, engineering, and I don't know the third one, but they only have 3 bachelor programs. So you can get your associates, you can get certificates and stuff like that, but you can only get your bachelor's in engineering and nursing. And there's a third, I'm sure it's like computer science or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but they have 3 bachelor's programs. So I won't have to transfer or anything like that.
My principal of my son's principal and librarian.
Yeah, there's like the nursing program that I'm doing. I'm getting an LVN, which is licensed vocational nurse, which is just like your doctor's office nurse, and then it's my RN. So it's only a 3-year program, and only 3 campuses offer that, and the closest one is Montgomery. So I'm sure they're gonna start to, because it's a bachelor program. Not many people go to Lone Star for a bachelor program. They don't have very many campuses, and nursing is hands-on. I have to go to the hospital, I have to do clinicals and stuff like that. So there's only a few. I think there's 3 campuses that do that. And Montgomery's the closest. So I'm not sure about what their other, like for engineering. I think we do have the engineering program at the site fair location right here. And I'm not sure,
Any books under fire, these are ones.
I'm not sure yet. I have to sign up for those classes for next semester. Finals are next week, so I'll get all that done. But it says on the, when you look online, it says on site, so I'm not sure exactly what
they would have
or anything like that, but it's going to be at Montgomery location, so I'm not sure. But, and then it's only, actually I think it is 12 weeks, but we won't go to the hospital every day. So it's like a 2-day class, and we'll go once a week.
I go to board meetings, and I gotta be real, the last few times I've been to board meetings,
So then I
I'm just kind of
suspected
shaking my head because there's, you
Yeah,
obviously see.
and there's also the Methodist is over there also.
One of the thoughts that came in my head was, is
in
this for the
Willowbrook.
cameras for some people?
So
I mean, is this
I'm not,
truly
and I
for
don't
the
know how
cameras, or
far
is
they're
this
going to want
what
us
we're
to travel.
trying
I'm not
to
sure
do for kids?
we're going to go like all
Because,
together,
and it's both
drive
sides.
separate.
I'll be real, right?
I'll just have to
But-
see, once I get in that class. But I know for the first
I try to basically focus
3 or 4
on
weeks,
logic
we don't
and
do
common
anything.
sense,
It's just
right?
like in the class.
I don't
Because
believe
obviously
that
they don't want
these
you
books
working on people if you
should
don't have
be
any
included in
experience.
young adult section.
But yeah, I'll be doing
I
that
think
next
these books,
semester.
and I think we can
then
agree,
I have to do
these books are
it
a little bit
again.
more than
I
just
have to
young adult.
have 4 rounds of clinicals. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing for the rest of until I graduate. So
Let's not declassify them.
Wristband.
Or, the librarian can tell.
Oh, yeah, somehow,
My
the
son
policing
said to
of it,
me,
the next.
Mom, the highest level book I can read is
When a
YA.
kid puts in their ID, and that's what they do before they don't have it, I check out books, I think it
So I
like
buy
comes
them.
up.
But you and I agree, so we're in agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's better than, I don't think that's a much better idea than
Because I'm pretty
away
sure
from kids.
online it says like they start at 5:45.
I love to read.
And it's all the way in Montgomery. So it's like wake up at 4 a.m. and drive over there.
I'm very
You're going to be there
impassioned about
until
not
2 or 3
allowing
So you have to
access.
eat,
Because of
it's
course
definitely
I
going
will
to
buy
be,
them.
it's going to be a big thing.
And
But
Chris, hear my thoughts on all those, like,
you don't have to graduate.
again, you
I have
said,
to,
like, these-
so I'm gonna have to do it.
It's under fire,
But yeah,
right?
being in medical school,
Submit that to Texas legislature.
even now in some of
Let
my
them-
classes,
let
I'm
them
taking an
freaking-
anatomy
they got
class,
experts
and I
who
have
can
to
read.
know
It'll be so much
every
easier
individual
than
nerve of
this
the body.
new
And I'm like,
grading
I'm not a
system.
doctor. Why do I need
Well,
to
I mean,
know every single nerve of the brain, every single nerve in the arm? I don't want to do that. But I couldn't imagine if I was actually a doctor what I would have to know because it's just for nursing. So I'm sure that
So
would
my
be
concern is that all of
He
the
wants
work,
a grading system like
books.
There are articles so that you can
publishing
know
is. My issue
how to
with it
react
is
to
right.
what they tell you.
where you
what the
gotta
patient's
Yeah,
doing.
and this is just a
If all
general
of this doesn't like a
nursing
certain
class,
grading,
so they don't
are we
know if you're
just
gonna
go
go
to closer? Are you
into,
gonna
I'm not sure anything about that.
My doctor,
I just.
And that's a legitimate concern. That's a legitimate concern.
HE13,
My-
which is now
But let me just say this.
Like
If-
it's
if-
scholastic.
If we have
Right.
stuff,
I know where that's at.
if even Hollywood has
coming through there all the
NC-17
time.
Yeah.
which means
I know that depending
17 or
on
below
what
cannot.
program you're in, it's different.
Right.
Like I'm not sure if
And
Lone
these
Star does it,
books,
but I
I mean,
think
I'm gonna-
HCC does
really,
it,
and
where
again,
you can get
listen,
jobs through your classes. You know, your teacher will recommend you to apply here, and you'll already have experience before you graduate, which is nice because a lot of places want like a year of experience before you even can work there. So.
They're things that are not appropriate for young guys. Now, here's the thing. Here's a beautiful thing. After school, if you want to basically show your kid pornography or whatever, I wouldn't do that. I think that's sick.
I would never. Well, I mean, you heard what I was like. What
Are there
going
some
on?
people that you don't agree with?
Yeah, so she's at the end, so she's almost, yeah. So those are good, especially right when you get to the end and you're pretty much, when you're about to graduate, you're pretty much done. Yeah, that would be really nice. I know, so we live in Fairfield, so there's a lot of stuff right up. There's a memorial right in front of us, there's a bunch of doctor's offices and stuff like that, so I hope
Getting up in
to.
arms about that? That's just my opinion.
Yes, and there's Kelsey Siebold also that's being built there. So I hope that I won't have a hard time because they're going to need some people and they're building these new buildings. So I hope that I will be able to get something like that. And I think I'm very smart and I think I'm a very good student. So I hope that I will be able to get recommendations from my professors and stuff like that to make sure that I get whatever it is.
Graduates are great. I have some very good friends. In fact, I invited him to come, but I don't know how to work him.
But let me just ask you this.
But he's, I mean,
Just fresh perspectives. Let's get our minds on
kids
books for a second.
expressing themselves is good. It's good for. Remember, I just watched
we had-
What's a Wonderful Life. Isn't
Again,
it
this
good?
is bringing
People
fresh
who
perspectives.
live and die in this place live and
We
live.
had all these things on television where it was showing examples
Isn't
of
it
police
good for our
brutality,
kids to feel like they can
police basically
express
using excessive
themselves?
force and all
Doesn't
that
it
stuff.
make them better?
How many instances really based as part of this entire nation? About 5, 6.
Yeah, but that's
So I'm the type of person where I'm like, look,
I agree. There are things that are not
one day in jail.
appropriate. I
I'm
spoke
trying to find your limit.
I spoke about one part,
There's a
and
saying
you jumped to
police
the. It's not
department,
okay
you may
today.
be
Yeah, I spoke about one part of the movie.
I said there were things in that.
Right.
The comment basically was like, I got called out
Can you
here.
imagine if you read that in a book today?
And
Is
he
that
picked
going
them
to be
all
okay?
personally, right?
That's my question.
While I'm in jail, takes something out
So
of
in the book,
looks at me, looks at
see
me.
that was like so.
It's right
In the
underneath.
movie.
Right. So
Oh,
I understand, and I've seen it with my eyes. I've seen the brutality. I saw when they.
I watch it every year, so I have.
Tell you what, I was in city jail for
Bert's the cop.
however many hours,
He's the
and they transferred to
captain.
county. Let me just tell you this.
And they're
You
gonna
don't want to
take
go to
George to
county. Because when I went to county,
and Lila walks by.
they
And they whistle at her, guys, she's stopping guys on the road.
they told me, you see the guards put on their gloves,
And then when Bert
stop
says,
everything you're doing.
I gotta go home and see what his wife's doing for lunch. They're like,
I
he's
saw
really
it. I
not
saw it with my eyes.
have intercourse with his
Right.
wife.
And people like you and
Yeah, I
I,
was like, oh,
right?
yeah, that's not okay.
But they told this young man to sit
So,
down.
because of those
Good,
many
and
parts,
stand
is that
up.
movie needs to be banned?
They told me,
Or is
yeah,
it
I said,
good?
I told you to sit down.
Jimmy Stewart has PTSD. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's
All the jailers, everybody
wonderful.
walked
And
over.
there's lots of
Guess where they dragged him? This place where there were no cameras, and they beat the ever
So then we're just like, no, we can't watch that.
Right. So,
It's the things that are.
should there be?
I don't know, because that would be more of y'all's side of the
I
side.
don't know, y'all.
It has to be.
So we're on the same page here.
To say.
To the level that
because
this country
there are
was destroyed, some cities were
Take
destroyed.
away Huckleberry Finn.
Is that really, what did that prove?
Take away.
I
To Kill a Mockingbird.
yeah, my son's already read
A lot of
that.
these
I
communities,
have
because I've lived in,
that.
I've lived in
What's
5
that?
different areas of the country. So I was building my business. One was Minneapolis. You know that Minneapolis is a very, it's a very, it's a minority community.
Yes, sir.
Right?
I bought that
They
book.
tore down their
It says the N-word.
That's good, it's still
There's a lot of books would, there's a lot of books would be, yeah, there's a lot of
I don't agree with
You know what I'm
that.
saying?
I don't agree with
And that's a
that.
handful of people. We're talking about 5 or 6 instances.
Because
Let me
books
tell you
don't make
something
you
about
any books expand your mind.
the
They don't.
teachers. right?
They don't,
That's
make
100%. Let me just say this. I had a meeting with the discussion going on. I was like, look, I believe that there's probably 90 to 95%
So yeah, I don't believe that. I just don't believe that.
that
I
are
don't
great
believe
teachers.
that senior drag
100%.
form is gonna cause my son to be
Unfortunately,
gay.
in my business,
Like any job.
guess what? Guess what? My bottom 10% of my employees, guess what? I'm constantly letting them go. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, it happens.
I knew teachers that I worked with.
100%. So,
Well, and we were talking, Fritz and I were talking about that because there are some bad ones.
and so that's where I'm at. Due to a select few people that violated our trust in the police community, look what happened.
Yeah.
Now let me tell you, all the exams I can give. I think right now there's over 400. I think it's almost 450 teachers this year have basically been arrested for having underage sex with students. Okay.
You mean in the
Not-
in
no,
the
no, I'm talking
States?
United States. I'm
Okay.
talking about nationwide.
I know. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Shoot.
Over 450, right? The entire country was brought to its knees. There's five incidents.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you put this on top. I want you to understand there's some validity to there's some trust issues right now. And it's not basically when I say teachers, I'm not talking about the great teachers. Just like when I say cops, it's not talking about the great cops. There's some fantastic cops. People in my family that basically served for 31 years.
My dad was a cop.
So, but that doesn't mean that there can't be some type of reform as well, and we can get better.
For sure.
And so that's
I think
what it's
this
about.
policy is good to review both. I do, like, I was there for and I'm very informed. I'm on the board of Psych Civic Alliance. I look at board meetings. I do a lot of the social media. Like, I'm paying attention. Although if I go back to teaching next year, I don't know how I will do that.
Can you do
all.
both?
I could, but
Yes, because
but we have
the
a
state law
teacher.
says that.
Oh, it's not a pack. It's not a pack, right? It's not a pack.
Yeah, that they can't.
But
Yeah.
one of our board members went back to teaching this year.
And just so you know, I appreciate you. Let me just say this for teachers and coaches. 'Cause I did. I did it for 5 full years. I did actually another year on top of that, just as an assistant. These are some of the most noble professions there are.
Keep peace in.
All right.
Tell you what, though, 2 weeks ago.
And please don't take this the wrong way. But I'm an entrepreneur. I'm
He's setting you up to take it the wrong way, like straight up.
I've done multiple companies. I'm just gonna say this.
What time is it, Dad?
Coaches and teachers. If you're doing
homework
this
to do.
100% for the money,
I have homework to do.
Oh, okay. We're gonna go eat. We wanna go
this
eat.
is the
Yeah,
type
but
of
and I
profession
work
that
also.
basically you see the fruits of your labor years down the road, right? And here's the thing: if you think that that people are going to get rich or wealthy off of a teacher's salary, ain't gonna happen. Just ain't gonna happen.
Well, I was in my kindergartner's classroom, and one of the tough things just about teaching is really, really tough right now. It's
It
not
is.
a good environment.
100%.
Schools are not fully funded. Lots going on.
We got problems with our government right now.
I can go into that fully. I attended the school finance meeting at CLC on Monday, so I'm all aware of school finances. But one of the tough things is it's hard for teachers to be aware of what's going on with the school board, what's going on with these policies. So
Think about parents.
yeah. But teachers even more so. I think they're so like, and I know my brain can only handle so much information,
Absolutely.
and so it's hard to keep track of everything. And yeah, parents too. And so I was there at open house, and the teacher says that she's going to take her 1,000 books home because of the new policy. And where they my son was so excited to have his folder, and got to pick out 5 books from level C or level B or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking that's going to be ugly because of this policy where she has to scan all the books. And she turns around to all these parents and says, this is because teachers have been showing inappropriate books. And I was
Okay,
like,
hold on. And again, I think where she could have said there are a few teachers that were showing something.
we don't have evidence of that.
Right, there's no evidence.
There's no evidence of that. I didn't feel able to correct her because she doesn't know me. Like I'm a brand new parent in her classroom. But I thought all of those parents are now thinking there are quote bad teachers around showing me.
What do we call them? Indoctrinating,
Is that an issue more really
grooming.
for the parents or for teachers to talk amongst themselves about that?
Well, I'm just saying, it's hard for teachers also to stay informed on what's going on, and you hear about this policy and you kind of assume something must have happened really bad because they're rethinking everything.
And just so you know, it may not have happened here in this school district. It could be down the street in Katy.
Well,
It could be
that's
out
why
in
we're
Tomahawk.
doing this.
But
Again,
then
this is
back
why
to
we're doing this.
police or whatever, like how many examples are we then going to use to create more work for people because of something that may have happened one day in Wichita, Kansas?
What's your name again? I'm sorry.
Christina.
Christina.
Yeah, and here's my other question that goes along with that. So I count, there's 8, 10, right?
No.
There's 20-something schools in Cypher, is that right?
More than that.
There's 52. There's 52
My point
elementary
is,
Yes.
my point being, so Fritz, what percent is 10 of 52?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Huh? So 20%, only 20%, and several
20% of what?
of the district is being represented, and not only
There's
that,
110,000 students represented.
well, I'm saying schools, I mean schools, and several of these people are representing the same school, right?
92 schools in the district.
92 schools.
So 10 of 92 is 9%.
And
Oh, I
again-
forgot, I knew that. So here's my thing, right?
Yep.
So here's 9%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what they call a test, I guess.
But so 9% of, and I know y'all have your groups, right?
Yep.
And I think your groups have about 100 people.
Which ones?
Well, the Cypher Civic Alliance
We have several.
and, yes, I know.
Yeah.
The Conservative Cypher is, you don't think I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's about 100, right? So out of what,
I'm at so many groups right now, I'll lose track.
117,000? 117,000?
118,000.
118,000. So now we're saying 200 to 300 people of 118,000
If it's one kid, that's enough for me.
are being affected by this teeny minority.
It's not a team.
Wouldn't it be
It's not
great?
a team
Well,
minority.
do you know what percent of parents opted out of the library?
Okay, and again,
I'm just asking.
and
Just
again,
a question.
let me just say this. So I'll tell you what happened at Smith Middle School when I met with them.
Well, no. Do you know what percentage of parents opted out of the library?
I can only speak from my own experience.
Well, I'm just letting you know that the total number was 0.03%.
Okay, so that's not the number that I got from Smith Middle School library.
Maybe it was higher at Smith,
It
but
was over-
the
it was over
district. I'm
20%.
I'm talking about the
It was
district.
over 20% of Smith Middle School because the librarian, Miss Lively, told me in front of the principal. Because I was like, I've talked to people, and again, like I said before, I talked to different echo chambers. I talked to the left, I talked to the right, because I want to learn as much as possible, right? Well, they said that's when they explained to me the young adults, books are included in the young adults. Now the people I've talked to, people I've coached, they were like hard left people, right? I talked to those parents, and they're like, I showed them some of those pictures that Flamer book. And they're like,
But they're
this
not
should,
available.
I know, but what I'm basically saying, I was like, does this add value based on what you're seeing? Do you think that this should be your kid should have access to this in school, whether it be in high school or junior high? And you know what every one of them said? Every one of them.
Hopefully,
said no.
let me read the whole book so I can get some context.
And again,
I'm not just going to follow what somebody, which is why y'all get pissed at me, because I'm not just going to follow. I will do my own research
and I can
because I
appreciate
represent
that.
myself.
But Chris, you also basically said that 0.03 or 0.3 basically opted out.
0.03 in the district.
Okay, and that
I didn't talk about one school. I said in the district.
Okay, so, but Chris, let me just be real. I grew up at Alding High School. Do you know where that's at?
Well, no. Let me tell you where I grew. I grew up in the United States, where the majority rules. 0.03% is not the majority.
Yeah.
So why do I have to buy into this 0.03%?
They're all kind of like anime,
I just- I'm
And I
wondering.
don't know where you're getting that number from.
Actually, it was.
I saw that. I was like,
by
oh my
one
gosh,
of
it's a huge
the
book.
people who was working with the library.
Yeah.
And you know for a fact that
I think that I cannot say with 100%
so
out
we
of
don't.
doubt, but it
No,
doesn't.
let's just not say it.
Well, I'll email the librarian at Smith and ask her.
So at Smith, so she said there's 1,200.
It's like
there's
a,
1,200,
what is that
I
called?
guess,
Like in a newspaper?
students that were
Comic
in
strip.
first grade, and she said there was basically just over 900
Yeah.
people.
There's not that
Basically
many.
said just over 900
In
students.
fact, I'll email my son goes to Salyers, so I'll email the librarian at Salyers. student.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would encourage you to do that.
I bet the head librarian, Jennifer, whatever.
Oh,
her
I bet
last
that's a
name
good
is,
idea.
But
she
here's,
would know.
but here's my frustration. And I asked them, I said, okay, so only that many people opted out? And she goes, well, you have to understand the policy right now. And she kept pointing me, so the principal kept pointing me back to, we do what the board tells us to do, it's their policy, right?
Yeah.
She goes, I can't say that I agree or disagree with the policy. It's just the policy, and we have to basically abide by the policy. I said, I've talked to parents, and I said, hey, look, on both sides, and they basically said,
Yeah, I was saying that one.
their kids having access to some of this
Yeah.
stuff, right? So, but here's the thing. But the other parents are going, well, we'll monitor what they have, but there's also parents that, let me just be real, like where I grew up, parents are working, they're not involved. Some of these parents barely speak English.
But then we get back to that, is it our job to parent other people's children?
No, it's our job to protect all students. Try to protect all students.
Right, I forget, I'm sorry, because you believe that books are harmful. Right, and I don't, that's why I keep saying, is it our job to parent, but you believe
garbage
that
in, garbage out.
these books are
Some of
harmful.
these books, I wish we would bring in like a counselor or something, because I know some of these books could prevent suicide. Some of these books help to go through emotions of abuse. Some of these books could be used alongside.
Let me.
The facts don't bear that out because because suicide rate among children is not going down, it's going up.
We got do those.
I can't correlate that to this. I'm not saying one for one. I'm not trying to say that.
No, it is. It is.
But you're making right. So to me, you start looking back. Why are these children
I
feeling
don't
such
think it's
despair?
because they're reading a book.
Again, we're not trying to correlate.
Yeah, we're not. That's not the correlation.
I mean,
that's where
it's
social
bringing these
learning is
counselors, it's bringing these people with all these various issues. And what we see in society, regardless of books being a deterrent or the books being added to it, again, we don't know that. But we do know that that's an issue. And so when we look at that from the standpoint of what are these children exposed to? And just like you said, I mean, some of these kids get exposed to very inappropriate stuff at home, on their phones, on their laptop, on whatever media they have at home. And it's inappropriate no matter what the source. And what we're looking at is saying, well, maybe this is one source that we should look at and try to control. I can't, just like you said, I can't control that your son goes out there and looks at whatever he looks at at your home.
And I don't want to hear, I don't want y'all to be quoting me that, saying that my son is, well, she, what's your son? I'm letting you know that as a parent, I found this out and I stopped it.
We're not under oath or anything. That's just having a conversation.
I'm just letting you know. I
So
know.
anyway, I mean, and I think that's what people are frustrated with, how to address. And so, like I said,
I
they're
would love
looking
to
at.
have more mental health conversations. I had a long
Do you want
talk.
this back?
I had a long talk with
100%.
Oh, okay.
I'll take.
State Board of Education.
I never saw this
Board
before.
meeting.
I've read the
He
movie,
said,
but I haven't
anti-CRT,
read this one.
anti-SES.
Yeah, I did.
I called him. He was not very nice.
Monica's.
But, I said, forget.
Is there any more?
I really wanted to talk about social emotional learning.
Yeah.
And the bad rap it gets. That forget CRT, which isn't in our schools either.
The elements of it are. I've seen it.
What is CRT? No, I don't know. I don't want to even.
Well, and don't forget that you're speaking to a Hispanic woman.
SES.
My dad's
You know
straight up
my
Mexican.
wife is Hispanic and I have two Hispanic kids.
Yeah, but my dad was so I'm 52. So my dad became a police officer because the Salt Lake City Police Department was looking for more racial diverse. And my uncle and my dad and two of my uncles and my dad became police officers because they needed, diversity. And I think it's wonderful that my dad was a cop. But my dad was told by my mom's father. I'm sorry, it's a little emotional, but it's not my dad, my mom. My mom was told by her father,
Okay.
Are you sure you want to marry that guy and have little brown babies? Do you think that happens? So that's where I'm coming from. So They got married.
So
They got
your
married.
mom was basically, that was a racist comment.
Yeah, my mom even said my dad thinks I'm marrying the help because they were very wealthy. So that's where I'm coming from. So I have to say that
but the way
those
you grew
are
up is not the
things,
same way I grew up.
right? But you said that you just tried to tell me about your Hispanic wife. I'm just letting you know that this is true history, and we have to recognize that there's a difference between history and CRT. History tells us that, and the FBI had a huge lawsuit over their minority police officers, right? Because they were not being moved forward for advancement. That's history. That's not CRT. The loan stuff for blind people, right? That's history. That's not CRT.
It's being completely distinct, right? It's being
Right. People are saying
we don't want this and this is this.
exactly because people like my father and my kids think I'm weird because I clearly do not look Hispanic, but I identify very heavily as a Hispanic, especially. I mean, and where I grew up in Utah,
Yeah.
not very diverse.
No, I know Utah is probably about 94%.
And trust me,
Caucasian.
everyone there knew I was Mexican. I grew up with that, right? So we have to stop saying that history is CRT because it's not.
Did anybody say?
Well, what is
When you read what do you mean by CRT and where do you see it?
So CRT is a class that's basically taught in a lot of colleges, right?
Right.
But let me just say parts. Let me tell you the way I grew up. My father was a firefighter. He was in the fire department. He was passed up on a couple of promotions due to the color of his skin.
Because he was white?
Yeah. I guess what? Let me finish. Have you guys ever been beat up because you were white?
Well, I'm not white, so
Well,
I've been in fights.
I have.
I've been in fights with Congo
I
girls.
got jumped at Albany High School, and the reason that the kid gave it is because I was the next white kid that basically walked through the school.
Oh yeah, I mean my white conservative men before enough, and I'm a white former conservative.
Like they fought you?
No, they would verbally attack me and my husband for being foreigners. Somebody attacked us on Facebook, told us to go home. We're citizens. Our kids are born here.
Yeah.
Because we are white, we're not allowed to say anything against America.
Yeah.
Because we're not white Mexicans.
So you dealt with an ignorant person.
Yeah, but I find
But look at her. I mean, like
ignorance
she's
is
saying, like
good.
she presents as white, same as me, right? That's what I'm saying. I present.
Hatred is everywhere. That's my point.
What's that?
Hatred is everywhere.
I pass. I have used that before. I do pass.
I'm
I
glad you said that. Hate is
Especially
tough,
now that I
right?
have blonde
So
hair.
if my kids basically, because of the color of their skin, they should be treated differently. I mean, is this progress? I mean, we're going back to like 1950s?
No, nobody should ever.
Yeah.
CRT is a step back, not a step forward.
No, but CRT, what is
It's not
CRT?
about individuals. It's about like
Not
laws.
castigating
in
people by the
place.
color of their skin being in a certain level of behavior. Your behavior
It's
is based upon your skin color,
some
and
of
that
the
is not true.
laws in place, and that's why it's like presented at law schools, like actual CRT classes, because it's things that have been in this country, different laws that when in place they affect different groups differently.
But I mean, part of that, if you're going to call it history, then go all the way back. Just go back to the Ottoman Turks, right?
No, I mean,
where the Ottoman Turks
it is
separated
part of
out. I mean, they separated people out by whether you were Turkish or not Turkish, whether you were Jewish. They allowed you to live in their society, but you could never attain true Turkish status
If I
if you were
can
from a
change the
certain
topic.
race.
Yeah,
And that's history. And
I'm
that's
hungry, so I need to go home soon.
Say with us.
I had a conversation with Will Whitman about social emotional learning because he brought it up in a board meeting. And took me a while to get a hold of him, but he was nice enough to call me back. And I said, I have an issue with you, one, conflating CRT and SEL because they're very,
Right.
different. And I don't understand where SEL gets this bad rap because all it is, and this is the example I gave him. I said, SEL allows teachers, counselors to help students with their emotions. I don't want my kindergartner crying. I have a kindergartner right now, and he does cry. He gets it from his mama. It's very annoying. I don't want him crying in the middle of class, and the teacher going, I know you're crying, but we're getting back to basics. We don't deal with these emotions. Recite letters. You know, all it is, hey, what's going on? Did somebody hurt your feelings?
One of
Let's
these?
have a conversation. Let's have a class meeting. What happened?
Yeah, I know,
You
we need to go.
And all it is helping
I'm sorry.
children, having children work with others and learn how to manage their own emotions. And I don't get where
No, I knew what direction you were. I just gotta watch it. Take it.
that people are
Kind of fun.
speaking
See how
out
this is.
against it. As if
I
it's
think if we were to go through the curriculum together, some SEL,
No,
I think we do
the
it
coffee
like
is
we're doing here
I
with
like
the
the
books.
coffee.
I think
Did you
we
like
probably
it?
get some
The
more
sample?
feedback.
I gotta have sugar in my class.
even the character, like the no place for hate. Like I just don't get how all of this stuff gets such.
Well, see, here's the deal. You can't equate. I'm not saying that everything that's social emotional learning is there's no value to it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there are elements. I'm saying there are elements in there that I disagree with.
Yeah. Well, what do you disagree?
Well, I mean, obviously, basically color of the skin, labeling people oppressors, and
That's not SEL.
well, then
Well,
again,
that's not CRT.
It is CRT. I've seen it. I've seen how it's presented. I've seen how it's presented.
You might see how it's presented in a certain way, but have you read up on what they actually teach in the law courses where it's, I think CRT has become
It's a
monster
buzzword.
of its own.
It's just a
I
buzzword.
think
That's
a
not
monster of its own. I
what,
would
but
agree
that's
with you on
not,
that.
so that may be what it's viewed as now, but that's technically not what the class teaches. The class teaches
have you
the
taken
basis
have you
of
taken
laws.
CRT in college?
I don't think it was available.
But
Like, it
her,
was just at
her
law
friend
school.
did. He's in law school. Yeah.
So have you taken the course?
No, I read up on what the course teaches, but
Have you taken?
No, I just said I went to law school, but since I said law school, I've lawyer friends.
Since I've never went to law school,
So it sounds-
I
so it
did
sounds
not.
like
But
we
did
need
you
to-
go to law school?
We didn't.
Right, none of
I was
us.
a criminal justice major.
Well, her friend is also. So did you take a CRT class?
What, do you know how long ago that was?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm just asking. I thought
No,
maybe you had
no,
some reference.
no.
I do agree that we
was
need to
back in
get rid of
95.
this.
95.
We need to get, in order to sort of move forward. I love the idea about the books. I do believe that
And I
this.
think we agree with a lot of
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
Hey, that's why Jeff Ivy and I talk often. That's why Brett Gilroy is in my group. That's why Courtney Spradley's in my group. Because I find one that I can speak with them. I've spoken very directly with Courtney because we argue. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I appreciate you've never blocked me. You are always kind to me. You are always, you always reply. You always, even though we don't agree, she has values that I appreciate because she does these things.
yeah, I think, I don't know what podcast, I'm a big podcast listener. I think it was a David Friend podcast, and he was just talking about how even though we disagree, and we disagree so fervently on so many things, we also need to learn how to exist in a society with people that are just going to always disagree with each other.
Right.
Marriage like that.
Well, and we can't move forward. We can't move forward with this education stuff. We can't, I don't know if you know, but I helped in Tomball. I helped them to keep the Mama Bears Rising candidates out because their candidates are already conservative. And when we separate this, they're not conservative enough, we see that there's this middle ground. And they were I was very happy to work with them. They were very happy to work with me. Fundamentally, we did not agree. We don't have the same politics, but that doesn't matter. Here, where it affects our children, that's what's important. And and I believe that to move forward, we have to get rid of this idea that this CRT idea. Like, okay, fine. I think character education, I like that they refocused it and started calling it character education. I like that we have an in-house program. Yay. We have to stop saying that our counselors are groomers, which has happened. No, I'm just letting you know that it has happened. AC DeMaio just wrote a blog about it. So we have to, just like you said, if there are certain counselors who need to be reviewed. However, we just discussed there's 90-something schools, right?
Yeah.
So are we saying that, all of these, and each school, I know, Salyers has three.
Now do something different than when I was in school. Counselors were like, let's just be real. They had degrees, and were prepared to basic counsel.
They still have
Instead of
degrees.
basically being like an administrator.
Right.
Well, and now
And
the
that's
board,
based on
the board
meetings.
has an 80-20. The district does have an 80-20 policy where
Do you want these
you're
cards?
supposed to spend 80% of the time.
I'm gonna
We
keep
have
mine.
multiple.
20%,
Okay.
you know, should be administrative
Yes.
or testing or whatever. So then,
Thank you.
then that means
I'm very proud of her.
if your counselor's
She
basically
graduated
a
from
testing
Woods in
coordinator, they need
2019 with a
testing
cosmetology
because
degree.
they're taking too much time.
She took state
This
in
was at the finance. It was
braiding at
CLC meeting on Monday. The president-
UIL or whatever for cosmetology. She lettered in cosmetology. We have a sweet little grandson that we love very much. And she's, you know, she's read these books. I don't. For me, the Glass Castle is worthless. Like
I know, it's
the
not a
book
good
itself
book.
is worthless. The information is because my kids were very, very, very smart. And at 3 years old, they were not cooking hot dogs. Sometimes she thinks she can put metal in the
Well, and
microwave.
again, you know,
So
I'll
I
just say this,
don't.
you know,
I don't think that book has value, but I wouldn't remove it from the library. I would just. I don't. I'm glad that they updated the curriculum, right, to include. That's what she read it.
actually.
But we had already read it in our book club. I'm glad they updated the curriculum. I feel like they could have
deal with that.
picked it
I have
but
an issue with someone
only because I think it's.
sending my kid to someone that's not.
It's supposed to be a memoir, but it doesn't.
Yeah, did you read that
like a
one?
memoir.
I read that one, I just read
Original
Flavor, Jan
Met with
Magenta,
them, met with the
and
counselor.
You
We
may
had
enjoy
to
that
read
because
it.
you write,
5 minutes.
you know, you write memoirs, and you might see the same things that I'm saying, where you're like, I lived.
That's especially high school.
We had to read it our senior year and write like a report on it. And yeah, there's a part where she.
Because I don't even have the education
Oh.
for
she has
that.
a senior citizen, that's
Wow.
why she was.
Yeah, because I don't know if they still because it was. It's just not an interesting book.
Push them through.
To
Push them
me
through.
personally, it's
Yeah,
just
that's
not
what I'm
interesting.
You know, one
So I
thing
wasn't
about
sure if they
right now
still
is
had that in
I
the
know there's-
curriculum because
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids in the same in my same class were like, "Why are we
that
reading this? Like
they're
it's not."
behind.
The value isn't.
Yeah, it's not
there.
like it's just not.
And in
Well,
my
if someone
opinion,
not a
fills out
great
a form,
piece
it's
of
like
writing.
mine because someone else.
COVID.
Well, like I said, since you write and you do write memoir
I
stuff,
still have not heard of
you might enjoy reading that, and you
Like
would
critiquing
see,
it.
yeah,
So,
critiquing it and
here's my
seeing
thing.
like